This is the iPhone 13 Pro, shot on the iPhone 13 Pro. Yo, what's up everybody? Matt Mantella here, and today we are going to talk about the iPhone 13 Pro. Every year Apple releases a brand new phone, and every year that phone normally gets some sort of incremental camera upgrade. This year, however, they have packed a ton of new features into the camera on this phone, and that is what we are going to cover today. So let's hop into it. The iPhone 13 Pro once again features 3 camera lenses in the array on the back of the phone. Each of these lenses has changed at least a little bit in this iteration of the phone. The wide lens now has a new sensor behind it that is larger and therefore lets in more light, thus giving you better performance. The telephoto lens now features a 3 times zoom, and the ultra wide angle lens now features the ability to take macro photos. In this year's phone, everything about the camera is bigger and better, including the camera bump. As you can see, compared to my old 11 Pro Max, the camera bump on the iPhone 13 Pro is much bigger. Almost 2 times the size. During my testing, I was really interested to figure out, can this phone now stand up to the likes of a Sony mirrorless camera? The camera that I'm actually shooting on right now is a Sony A7RIII, so in a lot of my testing, I shot side by side with the Sony A7RIII and the iPhone 13 Pro, and the results are pretty interesting. One of the first things that I wanted to test with the phone was the macro mode with the ultra wide lens. I did take my Sony A7RIII and pop the 100mm macro lens on it so that you could see a comparison between a pro level camera and the iPhone 13 Pro. The only drawback to the iPhone 13 Pro that I can really see is that because it's an ultra wide lens, you do get some distortion around the edges of the image. The next thing I wanted to test was how well the iPhone's wide camera stacks up against the Sony. So I took the 2 photos you are looking at now, and I'm curious, can you tell which one was taken with the iPhone and which one was taken with the Sony? The dead giveaway for me was that the Sony's focus falls off in the edges of the frame, whereas the iPhone's photo just has everything in focus all the way through the frame. Earlier today, I took the iPhone and my Sony out for a little photo walk around my neighborhood. As you can see through these photos, the iPhone has some pretty good natural focus fall off. I was very impressed with both the wide and the telephoto lenses in this camera. These are the type of results that you would expect to get from the Sony, and you can see that they match up pretty well. I took 3 photos of this motorcycle. You can see the one on the left, it does look very iPhone-y, everything is in focus. The one in the middle, portrait mode did a pretty decent job here, but you can see down near the wheel on the motorcycle, there is a little area where the defocusing was not applied. It seems like the camera just missed it here, but otherwise it all looks pretty clean. Overall, when you compare these 2 images to the one I took with the Sony on the right, I think they stack up pretty well. If I did not have my Sony on me and I wanted to take a photo with this motorcycle on my phone, I would be pretty happy with either of these results. Another big thing that I wanted to test with both photos and video was the iPhone's low light capability. I took some pictures of the skyline last night with my phone and the Sony, and there are pros and cons to each. The iPhone, you can see at night, you still get some of these little lens flare things that pop up. I've seen this a lot when taking photos at night. These little blips of light just kind of come in if there are any harsh lights in your area. The Sony doesn't pick those up at all. Overall, I was really impressed with the iPhone's performance in low light as I shot around a little bit. Even when it was very dark out and there weren't any super bright lights around, I thought that it did a phenomenal job in just overall producing a really high quality image. You can see here, I was walking around with my phone recording 4K 30 video, and just with a normal walk, the video is still very stable at night. You can see it's still super clean. There's no noise or really any artifacting of any kind. On the video side of things, the big new feature here is cinematic mode. It is extremely easy to use. You just choose where you want to focus and tap. And as you can see, the phone does a really nice job of picking up what I am going for as I'm tapping on the screen, and I think it did a very nice job. And as you're in the phone, you can go and you can set what type of f-stop you want your bokeh or out of focus level to be. Pretty unbelievable. And just to give you an idea of what this looks like side by side, I found this call box on the corner. As you can see, the iPhone on the left does a pretty nice job of picking up the call box, cutting it out. I'm doing the same thing on the right with the Sony. I think I was shooting at around an f8, unfortunately, because I did not have an ND filter with me. I also wanted to test the stability of the iPhone's video versus my Sony on a gimbal. As you can see, they are both extremely stable. In addition to walking in a straight line, I also wanted to just try a standard arc with the gimbal and the iPhone, and overall, I can't really tell any difference in the stability between the two. Overall, there's no denying that the iPhone produces some serious results. This camera system is no joke. So what do I think? For me, I'm still going to prefer to have my Sony with me for a few reasons, at least for now. The Sony gives me higher resolution, which allows me to punch in on images without resolution loss. At 42 megapixels, the Sony just produces a bigger image. The Sony also has a full frame sensor, which lets in more light, which just leads to an overall better image. Although the iPhone does produce great results, there were times in my testing where things happened that were just kind of unexplainable to me. So we're here shooting this B-roll. We're in HD 60 and we're kind of close up, and for some reason it's doing whatever it's doing right now. What we just found out is if you record, it stops. There were other times in my testing where I would shoot and I would see one set of colors, but then when I changed lenses, I would get a muddier image. You can see the oranges in these two images are completely different, and to me, this isn't really something that should happen. However, with that being said, this camera system is no joke. I don't always have my Sony on me. I always have my iPhone on me. And for that reason, I'm really stoked about what this camera is able to do. It's really going to up my on-the-fly photography game. Aside from the camera, this phone is an absolute beast. There are a lot of other upgrades Apple put into this phone. Apple also reduced the size of the notch. You can see on my 11 Pro Max on the left, it is much bigger than the 13 Pro on the right. And the other big new feature is the iPhone 13 Pro now features a 120 Hertz screen. I gotta be honest with you, I've been looking at my phone side by side and I cannot tell a discernible difference, but here is a shot in 120 frames per second so that you can hopefully pick up the difference between the two. While I was out shooting, I also wanted to try this new feature in iOS 15, which allows you to point your camera at text and copy and paste it into a note. So I opened up the Notes app and you can see here it works pretty well on this street sign. However, when I pointed it at some more stylized text, it did not do a great job. And as you can see here, this curved text on the sidewalk that I found, the iPhone did not do a good job in picking that up either. I also tried to get my phone to read this graffiti on the wall, and although it was not able to get the graffiti right, I was blown away because somehow it magically picked up this microscopic sticker that featured the name and telephone number of the manufacturer of the rolling gate on the right side of the frame. So I walked in closer and the iPhone was able to interpret that text perfectly. So from that perspective, it worked really, really well. I have really enjoyed interacting with the YouTube community in the comments on my other videos. So if you have any questions about the phone, about the camera system, about iOS 15, or maybe even about the iPhone upgrade program, which I used to purchase this phone and have used in the past, I'd be happy to answer any questions you have about any of those things. Drop me a comment below and I will try to get back to you. Thanks again for making it to the end of the video. If you liked what you saw here, please like and subscribe. And if you really liked what you saw here, turn those notifications on so that you're notified each time I release a new video. Thanks again for watching. I'll see you next time, which will be the best time.